So, I'm Bree, and I am an ambulatory wheelchair user and a big fan of The Sims. So, I also have a small problem in that I cannot cook. I cannot cook at all, and I do not care what the chef from Ratatouille says. I am of the few that cannot cook. But The Sims has an easy solution for this. You just cook things at your level and you get better, right? So I'm gonna do that. I have taken down all of the recipes for a level 1 cook, and I have found real world equivalents, and I'm gonna cook them in my disability friendly kitchen. So the first thing we're making is honey cake. Now, I do not have my own bees. I live in an apartment, so I don't think it would be socially acceptable for me to have bees. So instead I have this beautiful artisan, great value, grade A honey from Walmart. But when you're balling on a budget, you use what you can. So I'm not gonna let the fact that I don't have artisanal or local or homegrown honey stop me from enjoying a possibly scrumptious dish if I don't set the apartment on fire. So, honey for our honey cake will be Walmart brand. As a few notes, this recipe seems simple enough. I have everything I need for it. I had to make no substitutions. So, hopefully, this is gonna turn out great. So next, in a large mixing bowl, whisk different things. So, and I know I should have mise en placed. I did not mise en place. But for those of you who don't know, mise en place is a term that means everything in its place or something similar to that. I wanted to do everything in front of camera, so I didn't do that. Maybe I'll change that in the future depending on how chaotic this gets. So we need our honey, which we have over here. We need vegetable oil, which I am going to be using good old Crisco pure vegetable oil. A teaspoon of vanilla extract, and 2 large eggs. And I'll need a whisk. I also just noticed that there is no butter or margarine in this recipe. I'm gonna go check my notes. No butter, no milk. The oil is probably going to be substituting for one of those, and the honey, I guess, is going to give it its moisture. So that's good. I am also very scared that this is not going to work. So now, we're mixing in half a cup of honey. Should also probably get a spoon. So I'm gonna have to scrape this. Honey doesn't smell great raw to me. I don't know if anyone else has that because honey is such a popular product, but to me the smell of honey is just kind of off-putting. Maybe it's better when it's warm. Okay, half cup. Also, it's just so viscous. One half cup of honey. Into the mixing bowl. And just like I thought, this is gonna require some fun encouragement. be able to get out of that. And now a half cup of vegetable oil, which we'll see how these two like each other. Also, I'm very curious to see how honey is gonna whisk up. Just because it's not really a thing I think of when I think of whisking. When I think of whisking, I think of eggs, flour, those kind of things. A teaspoon of vanilla extract. For this, we're using McCormick vanilla extract. It is what was always in my house growing up, and so it is just a personal preference, though I'm sure the generic would work just as well. Okay, we're doing 1 teaspoon vanilla. That looks about right. And it's doing that fun thing that oils do, where it kind of just sits on the top and where the drops fell, which I do love. And then our 2 large eggs, and then we whisk until combined. And whisk. So I'm starting here, trying to get all of this off of this spoon. Okay. Now, it did not give me a desired consistency for this, so I'm just assuming well mixed is the consistency I'm looking for here. But once again, honey, I'm really worried about the honey. I mean, I know it is a honey cake and it will bake down, and I recognized all of that, but, well, that's interesting. So, for reference, the feeling of honey, when you pour it or when you touch it or when you use a spoon to it, you can really feel the drag, the friction of it. And as I'm whisking it more, it's losing that friction. I don't know if that's from the oil incorporating or if that's from just the agitation of it. I think it's from the oil, but it has completely lost that not stickiness, because it still is sticky, but it's lost that sludge, molasses-like nature of it. So I can kind of demonstrate here. If I use my whisk to pull it up, it still globs like honey does, but it's completely transformed to be more fluid. I can finish sentences. That's a thing I can do. So with that done, now it says to add in a half a cup of hot water. A thing I learned in science in high school, specifically chemistry, is always measure your beakers, or in this case, measuring cups, while they are on a flat surface. Never measure them or read their measurement when you're holding them, because you could be tilting them even ever so slightly and getting a bad read. Okay, so the hot water is really aerating that honey smell. I can really smell it now. And it still doesn't smell good to me. Okay, but that has been incorporated. So now we're going to go ahead and start adding all-purpose flour, light brown sugar, baking powder, baking soda, cinnamon, salt. We need 1.25 cups. So we're gonna go ahead and pop that in here. In my Sims playing experience, I've only ever been able to make honey cake with my Sims once, even though it's a level 1 recipe, because of that requirement of having your own honey from your own bees. We're gonna see if my Sims have been missing out on anything. One teaspoon baking powder. And 1/2 teaspoon baking soda. There is a trick that I learned from my mother, who definitely has the neat trait, maybe 3 copies of the neat trait, that you put it in your fridge and freezer, not to make the baking soda last longer, but to make your fridge and freezer not smell like, I don't know, that food fridge smell. 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So this is a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And we need a full teaspoon of cinnamon. Cinnamon? Cinnamon! I do love the smell of cinnamon. Cinnamon is one of those scents that I love greatly. And I hate that I just wasted some there, but I could not put this in there like I did with the others. So, that is all of the dry ingredients. I read a tip on this recipe, which I will post down in the description, that you should only work this to incorporate until all of the flour is mixed in. If you over mix it, it can become more dry or chewy, maybe dense. And I don't think that's a thing you want, is a very dense cake. So you just mix until all of the stringiness is gone, they said. And then you're ready to am seeing a lot of clumps here. I don't know if that's what they're talking about with the stringiness, or if some clumps are okay. But I've gotten to the point where all of the flour is good, so I don't see any more stringiness in the flour. Because I don't want to overmix, I also don't want to undermix it though. I think I'm gonna call that good, because that looks relatively homogeneous. So, in the end, this is what we're looking like. Looks pretty nice, in my opinion. And we're gonna pour the batter into the greased pan. Now, I did order 8-inch cake pans. They did not come. So I was in a rush this morning to find a replacement so I could make this cake today. And so this is actually a 9-inch cake pan. So it is a bit wider, which means the cake is going to be shallower. So I am going to aim for the lower time of baking to make sure I don't burn it. I don't know what happens when you burn honey, but it is something I would like to avoid. We are very liquidy, but any good batter is. So now I'm going to put this in for 28 minutes, clean up the kitchen a little bit, and we'll see when it gets out. Honey cake first appeared in the human cooking repertoire thousands of years ago and is believed by some culinary historians to be one of the earliest cakes in the world. Examples and recipes attributed to ancient honey cakes have been found in ancient Egyptian tombs, as well as from Greek scholars and Roman cookbooks from between 200 and 400 AD. During my research for a honey cake recipe, I found that the honey cake spans many different cultures and time periods and is involved in traditions and folktales alike. According to the histories I read, honey cakes were spread throughout Europe by the Arabs, who brought them to Spain and Sicily, then to Italy, where Italian Jews brought them to the rest of Central and Western Europe. The oldest dish I found, and most similar to what I baked, was a lakak, a Jewish variety of honey cake. This variety is especially popular during Rosh Hashanah to ensure a sweet new year. This style of honey cake is a single layer, somewhat dense, and is typically baked in loaf or bundt pans. Melopita is another type of honey cake, or rather honey pie, that appeared in Sifnos, a Greek island, generations ago. Sifnos is known for its cheese making, specifically the cheeses Mizithra and Manuri. Given this, the variant of honey cake that originates from Sifnos is more akin to a honey cheesecake, still dense and single-layered, which spread in popularity throughout Greece. Moving to the more modern era, we arrive in Russia with their rendition of honey cake, medovik. Medovik is a cake made of multiple thin layers, similar to a sponge cake, whose other main ingredient is sour cream or condensed milk. The legend surrounding this cake suggests that it was made for the wife of Alexander I, who could not stand honey, but upon tasting this dish immediately fell in love with it. However, the first recipe for the cake dates back to 1957 in Kiev, Ukraine, which then spread in popularity during the Soviet era. With history discussed, let's see how the baking turned out. Okay, cake just got out of the oven, and I would have shown it to you, but it's unsafe for me to record when I'm using the oven because I can't move as quickly. So I've got it on a heating pad, but I'm going to transfer that over here, and I'm very excited about it because it does smell really good. So there's our heat safe pad, and here is our cake. just got out of the oven. But this is what it looks like. It looks really good. Now, I won't be trying to make it look just like The Sims like some other people do. I'm just trying to make a good cake. So, the true way to tell if it's done is to stick a toothpick in. I do not have any, so I'm using a knife. And when I pull up, nothing comes with it. So it is perfectly done, which I am very excited about. And it is ready for serving as soon as it cools down some. In the recipe I followed, you can sprinkle more honey on top of it, which I might do when I cut it, but I'm planning on saving some of this to go in the fridge or to go in the freezer, which you can do with this cake. And you are not supposed to put more honey on top of it if you are going to be saving it, because honey in the fridge doesn't pair well. So that's going over there to cool. But I think it turned out great. The final test will be how it tastes, and it will be rated on taste, texture, and quality. So just like The Sims produce poor, normal, or excellent food, I will be getting a rating of poor, normal, or excellent for this cake from both myself and my partner. And we will see how it's rated.
The cake was a huge hit. I rated the cake normal quality for reasons that are more to do with my personal taste preferences rather than genuine culinary reasons. My partner rated the cake excellent and has already asked me to prepare it again for our Thanksgiving celebration with the family. With that, this dish is going into the past section, and I'm going to celebrate my first recipe with more of this sweet treat. Dag dag!